So as we're talking, if you don't have it already, feel free to download the app and just have a play with it. There's a QR code on the screen, which hopefully you can just hold your phone up to and scan, or you can just navigate to wastebase.app and you'll find install links there. Finally, we've got a Q&A session at the end, so I'd prefer, if it's okay, if everyone can just stay on mute. If you've got a question as we go, feel free to post it in the chat, and then we'll pick them all up at the end rather than sort of stopping through the presentation bit. And if, at the end, if anyone wants to set up another meeting or a training session, either pop a note in the chat or email us afterwards, and we can set that up. So that. We've got a few of us here today. Really pleased to have our founder, Cameron, here, who's joining us from Mozambique, where he's lived and worked for more than 20 years and where the idea for Wastebase was born. We're also joined by Rajalakshmi, who's here in the UK with me and has been leading on our connections with community groups and NGOs, both in the UK and the Global South. And a few other members of our team, I think, are sort of lurking on the call as well, so we can answer your questions at the end. Next slide, please. So before we demo the app, I'll give you a brief overview of Unwaste. We are a social enterprise based in the UK, but working globally. Our mission is to support better, cheaper, and more efficient plastic materials circularity through the use of emerging technology. We believe strongly in the power and importance of good data to achieve this and in creating a circular economy for plastic. And that's why we've created digital tools like Wastebase to help gather and share data about where plastic ends up. We've made Wastebase free and easy to use on basic mobile phone technology, as we want to engage consumers in all parts of the world with data collection. We believe that everyone that's involved in the production, consumption, and management of plastic waste has a role to play in creating a circular economy. A big part of what we want to do is show that plastic is a global problem and that requires a global solution. So our data helps connect all the actors within the global plastic value chain by connecting waste with the companies that produce it. Next slide, please. So far, we've developed two systems to support circularity of plastic waste. The first is our free plastic monitoring app and data portal, Wastebase Data, which we're going to talk about today. We've also developed a waste transaction service called Wastebase Deal. This connects people who collect and sort waste for a living, waste collectors, with local buyers, for example, plastic reprocessors. Our app enables waste collectors to get a fair price for the waste they collect. And if you'd like to know more about that, please just drop us an email. So I'm now going to hand over to Cameron to talk about our data portal and give us a short demo.
Thanks, Laura. Could we move to the next slide, please? That slide, that's great. So very briefly, today is not a training session. As Laura said, if you're interested, we do perform free training sessions about once a month. Get in touch with us in the chat. So we won't go into so much detail as a training session, but if you're interested in following along, our app is available at wastebase.app, and the data portal, which is the other part of our system, is available at wastebase.org. I'll mention those again as we go along. There are many apps out there that collect data about litter or waste. When we set ours up, we did two things, I think, differently from some other people. The first thing is that we associate all information about waste with a barcode. The barcode is a commercial system developed by commercial interest over the last 50 years that provides each product with a unique number that is unique to that product and is attributed to a particular brand and to a particular producer. The reason that we use that is to avoid any disputes about who is responsible for a particular piece of waste. If we know that a piece of waste is from product X that is owned by brand Y and that brand Y is owned by company Z, then we can fairly say without dispute that company Z is the producer responsible for that item of plastic packaging. The second thing is that we started in the Global South, particularly in Southern Africa, because we felt that there were a lot of tools focused on wealthier countries, such as countries in Europe or in North America, and there were less tools that were designed to deal with the challenges that people faced in the global south. We've done that now, and we have data regularly being collected in multiple countries in the global south, and we've now this year begun to focus more on countries in the global north, because what we found is, sadly, consumers in the global north have a stronger voice. That is, when a consumer in the global north goes on social media and complains about the lack of sustainability of a particular brand, the brand sits up and listens. Unfortunately, when consumers in the global south do that, it's much less likely that the brand will listen. The other thing that we found, if we could go to the next slide, is that very often the producers in the north have quite a high degree of technical capacity and operational capacity to make their plastic packaging material circular, but they only apply it in wealthy countries in the global north. And what we think is that it would be ideal if all of those producers applied the same highest standard of material circularity to their operations in the global north and in the global south. As you can see from this example, we have brands like companies like Coca-Cola, like PepsiCo, which are active in multiple markets in the global south and in the global north, the global north and the global south, but they don't apply the same standard of material circularity. As well as our data portal, we do produce once a month a curated data product, which we call a data report. And what we do there is we take data from those countries where we have a significant quantity of data and we're happy with the quality of it, and we add some additional insights. If you're interested in that, you can put a comment in the chat or sign up on our LinkedIn page. Can we move forward, please? Can we move to the next slide?
Yes, Cameron, we have.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think it's just a bit of a lag here. I can't see the next slide yet. Unfortunately, we found that with this video conferencing system. I'll just give a brief shout out to our data partners. Anyone can use the app. You can be an individual who's concerned about litter or waste, or you can be an organization. We do have some organizations, particularly in the global south, who work with us in a slightly more regular and structured way. We provide them with additional training, and they also perform some additional data validation activities. Here are some of them on this slide. If you're interested in becoming an organization like this, please read out to us in the chat. Could I please ask that we move on to the next slide?
Cameron, now I think we could do the small demo bit and then come back.
Okay, so we'll give you a very brief demonstration of some key features of the app, and then we'll talk about a few after the demo. So my colleague Raja Lakshmi will share here two different screens. One screen on the left is the app. It's the same app that you'd see if you use the app on your phone. And on the right, we have our data portal. Our data portal is at wastebase.org, and it's where anyone can access the data. So on the left-hand side, we have the app. One thing we've recently added, which we have found people love, even though it in itself doesn't constitute additional data, is this ability to like other people's scans. I think people like the fact that they can see all different kinds of waste in different countries. It's a little bit like Instagram, except it's for pictures of rubbish. So we've got here a scan that was recently done in Tanzania by somebody. You could, Raja Lakshmi, maybe you can like it. And then we can go to the key reason for the app, which is to find out data about plastic waste, the plastic waste profile of specific products. If we go to search for a product, we could maybe start by searching for some Cheetos. I think it's 0112. If you search for at least 4, if I'm not mistaken. So we've got here, let's say that we were in a supermarket in England and we were considering buying a snack. in Britain, these snacks are called crisps. In the rest of the world, they're called chips. And we wanted to find out about the recycled content. We can find out that this product actually has got no recycled content, although the company that owns the brand, which is PepsiCo in this case, does claim that by 2030, it will be using 50% recycled content in our plastic packaging. So in this case, we might say, look, I actually don't want to buy this product. I'd rather buy a product that's got a more sustainable packaging. So we could click the button, scanned in a shop, and decided to buy it. And this ties into what we were talking about. For brands to really listen to consumers, they need to know that consumers are changing their buying habits because of their concerns about material circularity. Let's search instead for a different product. Let's say Highland Spring. Highland Spring is a mineral water brand, popular in the United Kingdom. It's actually based in Scotland, which is where I originally come from. And we can see that this is a little bit different. This producer has claimed that they use 100% recycled plastic for all of their packaging. And we've got here links to the source. Whenever we have a claim by a producer about their products, we always put a link to the web page or the document where they actually make that claim, as it's very easy in the modern world to have claims without any basis in fact. We try to make sure that all of our claims have got a basis in fact. And we can scroll down and say, in this case, we scanned in a shop and decided to buy it. This is where we have a different perspective on waste than some people. Some people say that waste is only stuff that was dropped on the ground. The problem is with any fast-moving consumer goods, even if you buy it and don't throw it on the ground, once you have finished consuming the product, the packaging remains, and that packaging very often turns into waste. So we treat all of this as waste. If we can now look at the data portal on the right-hand side, we can scroll down and we should be able to, if we refresh the data, see that those scans recently done by my colleague now appear on the data portal. Could you scroll down a little bit more? So if we can see that these scans, there's a few scans from some time ago. If we now refresh the data, Rajalakshmi, we should be able to see scans from a few minutes ago. And we can see here scans done by Rajalakshmi a few minutes ago. If we click on one of these, we can get into detail about the product. So we can click on the Cheetos, and we should be able to see a page with full details of the scan, where it was done, the coordinates, etc. The reason for this is that if someone wants to complain that this data is not accurate, it's not fair that you're saying that our products are contributing so much to waste, we can just say, look, here's the data. Look at the picture, look at the barcode, tell us that waste is not yours, tell us whose it is. And generally that ends any discussion. If we now go to the brand, we can get information about the waste profile of this particular brand, Cheetos, and other products that are within this brand. And as we know, every brand is a registered trademark and is owned by a particular company. In this case, the owner is a company based in the United States that you may have heard of called PepsiCo. If we go to PepsiCo, we can see that it owns a large number of brands. And we can drill down to, if we wanted, we could drill down to see the waste information about all of those brands. So what we're trying to do is provide an incontrovertible source of data about the different products that are discarded by different fast-moving consumer goods producers. I'll just take one more minute and very quickly show our reports page, where people can have access to various different reports. These reports allow you to get at the data in different ways, and then you can export it to Excel or to other formats more used by data scientists, such as JSON or CSV. I'd also like to say that we're generally happy to add more reports to the platform. If you are a specific organization or research group and you've got a specific need for data in a particular way that we don't have, reach out to us. And as long as that data is something that we can add and it's in keeping with our core mission, we'll happily add additional reports for you to our platform free of charge. That's the core idea of the app. It allows you to collect data about plastic waste and share it with people in a structured way. What I'd now like to do is go back to the presentation and talk about a few more new features we just added, which may be of interest to you. So I'll ask Rajalaxmi to bring back the main presentation.
Yes, it's up.
Apart from scanning particular plastic items, if we move on to the next screen, we can search for a product by its name, by its brand. We can search for it by the barcode, and then we can find out various pieces of information about that product. Sorry, could we move on? Yep. So if we look at this screen, as we saw there, we've got curated information about that product's claims about recyclability and recycled content. One point I'd like to make, which is just a philosophical position of our organization, is that claiming that a product is recyclable, even 100% recyclable, is not very impressive to us, because that puts all of the burden on the consumer and society to actually make sure that the product is recycled, which can often be difficult or impossible. So what we think is much more valuable is for a company to actually make the choice to make its products out of recycled content, because that forces the producer to source the material for its packaging from recycled content. There are still concerns about the way that recycling is done and the energy inputs it requires, but we believe that a better starting point is recycled rather than recyclability, recyclable. So that's the information we put in our platform. If we can move forward. It's obviously the case that our database does not have every product in the world. We have about 5,000 products at the moment. That's not a big issue. If you are the first person to detect a product, you can either type in the barcode or scan the barcode, and we'll ask you to put in the basic information about that product. Because people, when they're out in the field collecting waste, or when in a store or a store, they may be in a hurry, we only ask for basic information at this stage, and we do have a system whereby our system flags all newly added products, and they then go through a process that we call validation, either by members of our core team or by volunteers from other groups, who check that that product is correct. They may be correct spelling mistakes. They see that the size is incorrect. They see that the brand was mistyped, and they can also add supplementary information such as the bill of materials, the color, the type of plastic polymer that was used, and various other pieces of information. This can all be done by users who've got what we call a validator permission, which we give to people after they've gone through a certain amount of training that we can provide, which is also free, and after they've demonstrated to us that they have a sufficient understanding of how to manage data quality. So if you find a product that's not yet in the database, don't worry, it's easy to add, and once you've added it, everyone else can also see the data that you've added. Let's move forward. So, sorry, I'm just waiting for the screen to update. I'm afraid that this web conferencing platform is a little bit slow. The other thing that we've already talked about to an extent is that you can tell us what you did with the waste item. And one thing we intend to add in a few months is a feature whereby, as well as this, if you want, as soon as you've done this, you can click a button and the system will prepare an email for you to send to the brand and to the retailer where your product, to tell them why you did or did not buy the product. And we believe that this will have a significant impact on brands actually realizing that some consumers do care about the sustainability or the circularity of the product packaging when they make their buying choices. Can we move forward? So finally, we've added a bunch of features recently, which we might call social features, where you can share your information with other people, you can share your profile, you can invite friends, and we've added some activities that you can do when you're not outdoors. When you're not outside collecting waste, you might be sitting at home on the sofa. And we've added several features whereby you can check data that other people added to the app and add additional pieces of information to that data, such as the type of packaging or correcting the brand without leaving the comfort of your house. And we're going to be adding more features related to that. We also hope that within the next month we'll launch an iPhone version. At the moment, our app does work on an iPhone, but it's a home screen app, and we hope within the next month to make it available as an App Store app, assuming that Apple does not change yet again its policies for third-party apps. That happens quite often. So altogether, we are trying to make it very easy for consumers and other people who are concerned, consumers and activists, anyone else who's concerned about single-use plastic waste, to find out about the waste profile of the products they live with in their community, and also to add data and share it with other people in order to pressure producers to apply the same standards for material circularity that they do in wealthy countries to their operations in less wealthy countries. I think that's all we're going to talk about from our side today. So what I think we could do now is throw open the floor if anyone has got questions. Thanks very much for your time. Laura, do you maybe want to take over?
Yep. There's not loads of people here, so if you've got a question, if you can either, you can probably just go ahead and ask.
Okay. Very nice. This is also, yeah, as you said, getting some data that is not cannot be contradicted by the companies that put the products in the market. I have a very basic question regarding languages. I've downloaded the app, so everything is in English, but do you have a way to translate and, for instance, to have it in other languages than not be English?
At the moment, we maintain translations for English and Portuguese. We do have a French translation, which is currently only activated in Africa Francophonie.
Okay.
We could also, I guess it would make sense to activate it in France and Belgium as well, now that I think of it, you think of it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the only challenge we have is, and you're welcome to maybe volunteer here, is it's quite difficult. You need someone who understands waste and understands the language to give you really accurate translations for some terms. They're not terms that you often find a good translation in a dictionary. So maybe what we can do is, our French translation is available, and if you want, you're very welcome every so often to send us screenshots of any corrections, and it's very easy. Our platform makes it easy for us to add those. We can do them from one day to the next. Are you based in France, Antoine? Is that correct?
I'm between France and Mozambique, but now we're more in France. So
okay.
Yeah.
So we'll activate it for France, because what the app does, to not confuse people, it'll only show you the option for a different language if we've activated that language is a relevant language for that country. So for instance, in Tanzania, it'll show you English and Swahili. In Mozambique, it's English and Portuguese. So what we'll do is set it so that in France, it also shows you French. I think we should have thought of that before. So thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, excellent. Then, yeah, as I said, I unfortunately need to go very soon. But yeah, I downloaded that's on my phone. I start to use it in English. On my walks, I usually collect 2-3 pieces of waste at a time, so that's going to be a nice test.
Great.
And happy to give you a hand for the French translation as well.
Thanks, Antoine.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Antoine.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll be in touch then.
Your feedback.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.
Are there any other questions? Feel free to use the hands up thing or just shout out if you've got a question. Nope. Okay. Well, I think if there aren't any further questions, as I said before, we'd really love you to try out the app if you haven't done so already. And we're really keen to get feedback. So if you try it and you think this doesn't work for me, or I'd like to do something else for me, then just drop us an email or tweet us or whatever. Oh, we've got a question from Dan. Are most of the products registered across Africa? Oh, your mic isn't working, no problem. So at the moment, as Cameron explained, we started working in a number of countries in Africa and working with NGOs who do data collection at scale, for example, through brand audits. So we do have a lot of products from those countries. However, we've been working really hard to get more data collectors in other countries. So at the moment, we have a number in the UK, in Canada, and lots of various other countries across the globe. But the more collectors we can get, the more products we're going to have in different countries. Cameron, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, I think a couple of points here. The first thing is that generally in a let's say in a sub-Saharan African country, you might have 200, 300 products that contribute more than 90% of all single-use plastic waste that is found. It's really quite a small number. In the global north, the number is much larger because they're larger economies with more disposable income. And so there's much more diversity of consumer-facing products. Normally what happens in a country when we start to have users is that for the first 3 or 4 months, they will have a little more of a difficult, not a difficult job, but they'll have a little more work to do because almost every product that they scan is from a brand, is not registered in the system, and they have to add it. After a few months, what begins to happen is that they start to keep finding again and again and again the same products. And so you'll then get to a situation that's, let's say, countries like Tanzania or Congo or Mozambique, where we've had an awful lot of data collection going on. And there, most of the time when you scan a product, you'll find that that product is already registered in the app. The second thing is that the dominance of particular producers varies basically in accordance with the wealth of the country as measured by GDP per capita. So if you're in one of the poorer countries of sub-Saharan Africa, you might have as much as 80% of all of the plastic waste being from only 5 producers. Whereas if you go to a wealthier country in Africa, that might go down to 40%. And if you go to somewhere like Canada, UK, it might go down to 20%. So the big famous brands like Unilever, Coca-Cola, Nestle, Danone, they have a very significant contribution, but they don't have such a massive market share of plastic products in the wealthy countries as they do in the poorer countries. So if you're adding data in a new market, you will typically have a challenge to add products for the first few months. And then you'll find that challenge gets less and less, and you'll more and more find that you're coming across the same products again and again and again. We do have features whereby if you've got a large Excel sheet of products, we can help you to do a bulk import of those products to our app, to our database to save time. We've got all sorts of things like that. So I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. Okay, are there any other questions? Yeah, we're very happy to do that. And I think we're going to chat at some point soon, Dan. Yeah, anyone else? Any other questions? Okay.
Maybe just mention that if someone wants to follow our data report, they can use this QR code. We are quite strict about not spamming people. So if you follow our data report, you might get 1 communication from us a month, and some months you might get 2 communications. But we don't worry that if you sign up, you'll be bombarded every day with thousands of emails. We don't do that. So feel free to sign up to our data report.
Okay, well, thank you everyone who's joined. We're going to make this recording available in a few places. So if you know of people that'd be interested, we'd be really lovely to share it with them. We can share out, we'll send a follow-up email with links to various things. And obviously you can reach out to any of us at any time. I think we stop the recording now and just remains to say thank you everyone. And we hope that was useful.